Plants are living organisms, like you and I, but when faced with competition in their environment, they don't have the legs to get away from it. It seems that University of Guelph researcher Professor Clarence Swanton has found that when plants sense others nearby, they have the capability to communicate. These plants rock. It was always known that plants changed based on their surroundings, depending on the sunlight, space given to grow, weather, and proximity to other competing plants, for example. But Professor Swanton has found that they actually adjust on a cellular level within minutes of experiencing environmental stresses.
One of the fun things about plants is that, we actually think that they talk to each other. When you have two plants sitting side by side, we normally think of a competition that the weed, in this case, is going to cause some problems for this corn that's growing in this pot over here. But what we find is you don't actually have to have physical contact, that they're able to communicate. So this corn plant actually knows that this weed is beside it. Once that happens, this corn plant starts to think, competition is coming, and it starts to change the way it grows. And some of those changes influence that plant for the rest of its life cycle.
This research is extremely beneficial for farmers as it allows them to understand how important weed management is at a very early stage of crop development. Within days of weed growth, crop yield can decrease by as much as 2/3 because of this communication. The great thing about studying plant agriculture is that anyone can get into it. Whether you're from a farm or just have an interest in biology, anyone can learn about plants. Professor Swanton grew up working on a farm and enjoyed the aspects of working with crops. Plants are everywhere, and the breadth of their application for food, medicine, and even aesthetics really fascinated him. University of Guelph grad student Scott Cressman agrees.
It's not just about the vegetables or produce that you find in your grocery store, or the crops that you find in the countryside. Plants impact our lives more than most people realize. And there's a huge need for good young scientists to be studying these plants and their products.
What we find is that when these plants come out of the ground, those first few leaves start to act just like little radar, and they start to read their environment, and they're picking up temperature differences and light differences. Much the same way in human biology, where we talk about young children and we say, by the age of 2, that child's character is set. Well, in a way, it is similar to an actual plant.
Although Professor Swanton did say that his up-and-coming research is highly confidential, he did let us in on the fact that he'll be studying the anxiety produced by this need to communicate. Who knew plants had to deal with the same day-to-day stresses as you and I? And this is one more characteristic as to why plants rock.